gotta wish everybody, all my siblings, my mom, my family, and all my other immediate families back in the Philippines, a happy Father's Day. For those of you who don't have dads, that's okay. God still loves you. But gotta wish my family a happy Father's Day. And to our late dad, actually, who passed away 2 years ago. Fantastic dad. And today is all about the dads, pops. So happy Father's Day. So, like I usually do on my morning shows, on my podcast, I would just go through, see what's going on and what's interesting. And today is Father's Day, celebrating all the awesome fathers out there who've been there through thick and thin for their families. And it takes a strong unit to have a good bond with your father. And I don't know about my other brothers, but my other brothers probably think the same way too. Our father anyway was a very, very strong man, physically, mentally, emotionally, not so much spiritually, because he didn't have that much spirituality if it wasn't for my mom, because my mom was very Catholic, spiritual, devout Christian Catholic, and believed in God, Jesus Christ, the whole Catholic Christian belief. And when my dad, when my dad got married with my mom before we were born, my mom, we're still living today, and we love our mom. That she installed it in her family. So as much as I love being a Catholic, a Christian, and having 100% belief in God, Jesus Christ, and the whole Catholic doctrine, the whole Catholic faith, when you're young, you don't really know too much about your faith when you go to church. And going to church was horrendous, horrible, boring. I didn't know anything about it when you're young. You're about 5, 6, 7 years old, so you really don't know. You're only a little kid and never understood why shaking the hands and taking the bread, taking the wine if you want to drink the wine, which is symbolic of Jesus Christ's blood. So the bread is symbolic for Jesus' body, blood of Jesus Christ. The blood and body of Jesus Christ. The priest. That's another story with the priest and the whole pedophilia thing. So we will indulge and dissect that for another day. But right now we're talking about our fathers, our beautiful father. And for those who don't have fathers and have no belief, try to find and do your homework, do your due diligence about the faith, the Catholic faith, or any faith you believe in, or any, how would you call it, any belief in higher power, such as yourself. Let's just put it that way. And the Father Almighty will always be there for you, to thick and thin, whether you're bad, good, the good, bad, and ugly. So, and then, but you have to repent, and you also have to understand that He gave you free will to do whatever you want on this earth. That's why there's a lot of hindrance and evil acts, what's going on today. Don't want to go too much off topic because I am talking about the fathers, but it's always leading me to a winding road into what's going on to the political realm in today's society and what's going on with the world. And it is very evil. It is very horrendous. It's very hard to talk about. But today we're going to talk about our fathers, our beautiful dads. For those who have dads or don't have dads or wish they had dads, I'll pray for you. Because that's just the way we Catholics, Christians do. We pray for those who don't, or the less fortunate, just like the needy or the people who don't have much. So, in that note, happy Father's Day to all the beautiful dads out there. So, let's talk about our dads. Let's talk about my dad, our dad, my brother's dad, my mother's father, my mother's father or my mom's husband, our dad, the family unit, our grandfather. We didn't know our grandfather because we came here when we were 1974, 75, around that time. I think it was winter when we came here. Between 74 and 75, cold. I never understood what was going on, but we were traveling, but we only knew that my dad wasn't there. I think he came here a couple of months before, or maybe a year before we went through our journey to Canada. But my dad took the leap of faith and the leap of step to go to another country, which is Canada, to live a better life for his family. I don't know how he did it. I don't know why he did it, but I think my mom told me that he did it because he wanted to better his life instead of living in a third world country, an impoverished country, which is the Philippines. I was born there. My brothers were born there, except Junior, William Jr. He was born in Canada, but we were born in the Philippines. But all I remember was just the chickens, the beautiful oceans, and the beautiful trees, the palm trees, the coconuts, candles burning, dogs. My mom and dad, when they were younger, I think the church that was by the ocean. All I remember, and the sakayan, which is the boat with there's little trusses on the side and fish. I can vaguely remember that the chickens. My dad used to have a motorbike. I remember going in the back of his motorbike. I remember I got burnt from his motorbike, from his tailpipe, and a big bubble on near my knee, and it started bubbling up. And I remember I was always playing with the chickens. I remember my dad would always take the chicken and cut those little chicken fat underneath, whatever it's called, but it would bleed. I didn't understand why he would do that, but he did it because I think they would always have like cockfights, chicken fights, right? So when they had cockfights, chicken fights, it makes them stronger apparently, and then that's what I remember, vaguely remember. I remember getting ants on my feet. I remember our babysitter, who used to babysit us, and we used to go up in a mountain, up to where there was a water, what was that place called? A water tower or whatnot. I vaguely remember that. And we used to have celebrations and stuff like that. And those were the good parts. So I do remember when I was 3, 4, 5. See, I still remember stuff like that. And I still remember being in a crib and watching little geckos walking around the ceilings and in the houses and stuff like that. I was always watching them and going. I was a very very in tune kid, finding out what is going on in this world today. I was always like curious. I was a curious kid. I don't know about my other brothers, but they were very curious as well too. So, but no, let's lead back to my father. That's just a little bits and stuff that I remembered in the Philippines. Hopefully one day I will go back there again and do a documentary about my family life, because moving from the homeland to a foreign nation or country is a whole switcheroo, and I could understand the other Filipinos, how they came into Canada as well too. So, but anyway, let's go back to our father. For my father to go back to Canada, to establish his life there, to find a job, to provide for his family. I think he went there 3 months or 6 months before we came there as well, to establish, to make some money, to get some income, to do what he loves doing. And to him to go by himself, it takes a lot of balls, that's for sure. So I recommend to any father who take the leap of faith to go to another country, another nation, to provide for the family. So that is nothing but love and strength right there, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So I do remember that, and going to the airport with my brothers, going on a plane. I think at the time, back in the 70s, you were allowed to smoke on the plane. It was very smoky. People were smoking actually on the plane. I didn't know. I don't know how they did that, because you're in a plane, you're in a very closed area, and nobody was smoking. I do remember that. I remember that it was always choking me and stuff like that. It was weird. I don't know how they, I don't know how they allowed smoking on a plane. Let's just put it that way. But there was smoking on the planes, in the offices, in the highways, indoors actually. So I think they banned that about 23 years ago, 2020 or something like that. But anyway, yeah, back to our father. So to him to establish to go to the Philippines for his family, to provide for the family, takes a lot of balls for any father. So kudos for any fathers who did that and took that leap of faith. So in that note, our father was very strong, and we never seen our father cry. We always seen him as a superhero, indestructible. And for him to have a language barrier because he had a thick accent, and before he passed away, he still had that accent, but we still understood him because he's our father, and we knew how he moved, how he acted, how he talked. It was just awesome. But our father was a very, very strict and disciplinary guy, and when we would get out of line, we would get the strap, we would get hit, we would get belted, and he wouldn't just belt it, he would whip you. And we never understood that, because we were just young kids. We love to play, and we do a lot of stupid things. When you're a young kid, you do a lot of stupid things. Everyone does. But you're just curious, and you want to have fun. You're just a kid. We had, there was 5 of us at the time before my other brother was born. And we loved to play. Play baseball, play hockey, play whatever. And enjoying going outside with your family, with your brothers, and just seeing everything brand new. How you went from a very hot country, beautiful tropical country, to a very cold country. Beautiful country, but which is cold, but very cold, and very new and very scary. So you go to Canada, and it's very new, it's very scary. The people are all white. I seen a couple colored people, but just a couple. When you're Filipino and you're a visible minority, and you're coming back, or you're coming to a foreign land, and the Vietnam War was going on, there was a lot of races going on. Racial things, racial tension, racial profiling. And we never understood. And because you're only a little kid, you're just enjoying life, and very innocent. When you're innocent and you're a kid, you don't know anything about life. So but you learn hard. You learn about the streets. We just didn't move to a country. We moved to a very rough neighborhood in the country, because that was all we could afford, just like any other family who's trying to survive. Going to another country, but you live and you establish yourself to a very affordable home, where you could only afford, and my dad could only afford such and such a place. And living in the west side of Windsor, Canada, Ontario, or any other side, is always a very rough neighborhood. Very rough. In the west side, for those of you who understand, have been in Canada, in Canadian area, west side is very tough. You learn how to defend yourself. But I'll always remember that my mother was always installing to us that in order for you to survive and be strong, you have to band together as a unit and defend each other and protect each other. And that's what I'll always remember. My father, my brothers, and my father too. My father was always working, so my mom was always teaching us that, and my dad would always install strength by providing. And we could see that from my dad, because he was always there working and never come home around 5 or 6. But on the weekends, he would spend time with us, and awesome, he would always spend time with us. But when I kind of got it when my mom said that, because when they were you go into a living in a different country, and you're finally realizing, oh my God, there's a lot of weird people, and there's a lot of strange people, and there's a lot of mean people out there that trying to bring you down, make you feel like you are like an alien. They make fun of you from the way you look. They make fun of you because you're a different race. They make fun of you because you don't know how to speak the language. They make fun of you because you're born the way you are. And I never understood that. When you're a young kid and you're very curious about things, you never understood why people say that. And it goes into your psyche. So when you're young and you're very adaptable, and you're always thinking, and you're always absorbing, and you're always recording in your head and your memory. So stuff like that you'll always remember. The racial tension, the people, the mean people, and the people who want to hurt you. And I remember going to my mom and my father, why are there always mean people? When you're young, we are 5 or 6 years old, you don't know. So you ask your mom. So your mom goes, well, you defend yourself. If people are trying to beat you up, you make sure you band together and you beat that person up. So we did. There was a bully in our city, in our street, in our area, and there's always a bully. And for those people who get bullied, you don't want to get beat up, and we got bullied, so we didn't understand it. So what we did is all our brothers banded up, and we took that bully and beat the living crap out of this bully. Of course, it was white, because white guys seeing Asians, Filipinos in their neighborhood, thinking that okay, we don't belong there. We never knew, because we just wanted to play and enjoy life. We stood up to that bully and we beat the living crap out of this bully. Made him cry, kicked him, hit him, and I remember our mama would say, stand up to the bully, beat him up, stand up together, and you do what it takes to beat him up. We did. We beat the living shit out of this bully, and the bully started crying. I just remember just keeping hitting, boom, 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 kick, boom, 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 kick, until he started crying and bleeding. That's enough. And then we said, and all our brothers finally, we stood up, we let him go, he started crying, he went home, and that was it. That was end, and that's what we'll always remember from mother to our fathers. But this is how we installed strength from our fathers and our mothers. So our father loved the way we defended ourselves, and my father loved the way my mom said that to his kids, and my father was proud of his sons that defended themselves, because as a man, like I said, my father was very strict, was very mean, and he didn't like his sons to cry. He wanted his sons to be strong, defend themselves. And my mom did a great job, and my dad was very proud of us. My dad didn't show a lot of he didn't show a lot of emotion. He showed his love by providing his family food, shelter, and going to trips, and that was his way. He wasn't a very emotional guy, but later on through life he started getting, and when we got when we got out of line, boy, oh my brother, we were fear of our dad. We would fear our dad, because we know when we fuck up, we would screw up. And I did a lot of screwing up when I was young, when I was a kid, even throughout life as well too. My dad would whip us like hard. I would get welts. If he would do that today, he would be in jail right now. But back then, everybody got disciplined, whether you're black, white, Asian, Jewish, Muslim, any culture. Back then, you would get a whipping, and we would get whipping. All our brothers, one by one, whack, 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 and my dad would whip us hard, like he would whip a freaking dog or kick a dog or something like that, because he wanted to install strength in his sons. And when he did that, boy, did we understand. But he did it a couple of times, and we finally realized, okay, you know what? I don't want to get whipped anymore. So you stop doing all the bad, stupid stuff that you do, because you don't know. You just won't have fun. But I didn't realize how mentally strong you become when you get older. and you install that to your family as well too. If I would have kids, or if I could have kids, if I would have had kids, I would probably do exactly the same thing. Not to the extreme what my dad used to do, because back then, that's old school stuff. You live in the West, you just really rough neighborhood, and your son screw up, your dad's gonna whip you, whether you did something good or something, whether you did something bad, worse, or even not good. When you do good, he'll reward you, but when you do something bad, he will definitely tell you. And finally realize, okay, now I understand what dads really do. My dad was a very strong guy, mentally, physically, emotionally, but not spiritually. But he was a disciplinary guy. He would make sure you'd feel that pain, and the next following day he would love you. He would take you out for ice cream. I remember one time my dad would, we were, like I said, we were always, I said, my dad probably thought in the side of it, so my sons are they're like rugrats, they're all over the place, they're like bouncing off the walls. So my dad bought boxing, what do you call it, bag, a big heavy bag, boxing gloves. He goes, okay, since you guys are all over the place, you guys are like crazy kids, I want you to box. So he bought us boxing gloves and a freaking thing, and we were like, oh my god, that's awesome. My dad bought us some stuff. And we used our aggression with boxing gloves and a boxing, and we learned how to box, boy. And I remember I was boxing with my brothers, Gerald, and I said, okay, who's stronger between me and my younger brother? And Gerald was a pretty big guy he was bigger than me for some reason, and I was older than him. And I said, you know what? I'm the kind of guy, like, I don't like to lose, and especially my younger brother. And I was very aggressive, and I don't like losing, so I had a boxing fight with my brother. And we were like 1, 2, 3 rounds. All my brothers were watching. Come on, go. And that guy said, fuck this. I'm not going to let my younger brother beat me. So I, bam, knocked him right in the button on the nose. Boom. He fell down. I was like, yeah. And I learned how to box when I was younger. That's how I learned how to box. Watching boxing with my father back on Sundays, the weekend, when it used to be free, watching Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Hitman Hearns, and all the greats, was phenomenal watching with my dad. That's what I enjoy with my dad. My dad goes, you're going to defend, learn how to box. And my dad would enjoy watching Muhammad Ali box, Sugar Ray Leonard box. And for a guy who didn't know how to speak very well, a very strong, accent, he seemed to manage, and a lot of people actually liked working with my dad. He was very lovable. Very lovable. And throughout the years, we started to understand how my dad was operating. Like, he would always go to work, get so tired, come home around 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, do like 12-hour days, 4, 15, sometimes 16-hour days. I was like, I never understood that. Like, man, my dad was a hardworking guy, and we would always, like, my mom would always buy us food, shopping, and food that's very cheap but affordable for the family to keep their bellies full. And all my other classmates would always have these great food, chicken cutlets, and we'd have this mystery meat. I never understood that, but now I understood, because my mom had to feed 5 kids at the time before my brother William was born, William Jr. Now I understood, but back then we never understood, They had chips, we had carrots. So it was only what was affordable to feed our family. Now I understood, and we never understood that, but it was okay, because it taught you how to save a buck, and how to... it still me when I got older, when I went on my own and lived on my own for many years. So love my mom and how she did that, how she installed that in her. But I love my dad, how he became a very, very strong dad to support his family, to support his kids. No, I understood that. Never understood why he came home so late, but now I understand why he was so strong. Because when he was pissed off, he wouldn't take it out on us. He would be very quiet, and when he's quiet, boy, that installed fear in all of us, because we never understood why he was so quiet. He was very cold, because a lot of things on his mind is probably because when you're living in a different country, a different nation, he had to do that by himself. He didn't have too many friends because he had a family to take care, but he had a lot of friends. A lot of people liked him. A very lovable man. But when you're a lovable man, people take advantage of you, especially in a country when you're not familiar with. So you learn that throughout the life about who your friends are, who you trust. And I think that's how my dad became very strong, resilient in being a good father and being a strong father, a very provider. And when he did that, like every year, I understood why he did that. He was never there, but he was only there on his breaks, on the days when he had a day off, when he'd take us to trips, when he goes to Edinox, to a swimming pool, a family pool, where he'd go swimming with his family. It was like, and we enjoyed that a lot with our dad. It was like, wow, my dad, we'd always follow my dad. My dad was a great swimmer. And remember, we were going to a place in Edinox in Windsor area, the west side area, very rough area, but it's a family pool. And my dad would take me in the back of his feet, and I was like, I didn't know how to swim at the time. And my dad would make sure you close your breath when you go underwater. And he was like, oh my God, I was scared. But when you hold your dad like that, he would make sure that he would take care of you. But I was still afraid because you're in the water. You know, there's a lot of people in that water. But I trust him as a swimmer. But when you go underwater, I was like, oh my God, I have water on my face. And my dad goes, see that boy? He's like, he would always laugh at me and smile at me like that. It's like, just show that strength. That's, like, don't be afraid of the water. Learn how to swim. But I didn't know how to swim. I was still scared. But my dad would secure us that the water's okay. It's not going to kill you. So that, another great moment with our dad. Another incident with my dad would take us to trips. We went to Toronto at the time when we had a family living in Toronto and going there every year, meeting our friends. It was awesome. Just experiencing what Toronto's all about. And that's even a bigger city. That was even a scarier city, but I kind of liked it because everybody was multicultural. Everybody was either black, white, Asian, Muslim, Japanese, Chinese, Polish, Korean, different mix of culture in Toronto. That's why I kind of liked it, because everybody was, it wasn't as liberal at the time. It was more like, maybe it was, I'm not quite sure. All I remember is that everybody was the same, and everybody had the same goal. Work, feed your family, have fun. A lot of great stuff going on. Festivals going on back in the day when I was younger with my brothers, and it was exciting. And my dad would always do this in a yearly trip on his, and I enjoyed it. That's how I understand. Okay, every time he has a break, or he would take us on trips, and I loved that. And when he bought his car, what do we call it? What was that called? A station wagon. When he would go to when he bought his first station wagon, he enjoyed us, and we were like, we moved about 7-8 times, because when he got laid off in Canada, when jobs were scarce and he got laid off, we had to go to another city to move. So we went to Sault Ste. Marie. We had moved there a couple of years, came back. And then again, he bought a station wagon, so he enjoyed his family going on a trip around the city with a brand new car, a station wagon with his family. Was very exciting too. So that stuff like that we enjoy. So we see that stuff in our fathers, how he did that, so how he provided for us by doing that, and we enjoyed it very much with that, and we understood why he did that. So it's like, wow, my dad really loved us. But when we knew we did something bad, he would discipline us. So okay, now we understood. But when he loved us, he really loved us. He would help. He would buy things for us, stuff that he could afford. You can only afford things when you have so many, and you're only making so much money, and you have 5 children you have to take care of. You have to take care of them, to feed them, survive. And that's what he did, and we definitely appreciate what he did for us, and how he made us into men, and that I will talk about in another minute. We'll put this on pause, and then we will talk about that in the next 30 minutes about our beautiful dad. Thanks for joining me back, guys. So I had to do a little pause, making sure my mom is okay. Yeah, we are taking care of our moms. We're definitely going to put our mom in a rest home. I don't believe in that. I used to work in a rest home when I was younger, when I was a kid, when I was first learning about life and getting my first job was working in a rest home with my mom, because my mom was RNA aide. He was a nurse's aide at the time, and gave us the first job, washing dishes, cleaning up, helping the elderly with their tea and coffee, washing the floors, mopping the floors, washing dishes, and making sure everybody is okay for the elderly in the rest home. So it was a great experience. I'll tell you one thing, learning about life. That was my mom's giving us a first job when I think we were about 12 or 13 at the time. And then when we started working there till I was 17 or 18. So that was my first job, working at a rest home. So mine and my brother's. Great job, good experience. It made you realize about the elderly, appreciate about the elderly, gives you sympathy, empathy about the elderly. And now I understand why. But I will never leave and put my mom or any of my parents or siblings in a rest home. It's just not for us and for our family. So we're taking care of our mom, because okay, we're taking care of her because we promised our dad before my dad passed away. This is back to our dad again. Before our dad passed away, may God rest his soul. We love you, Dad. You know, you're up there. You're always in our hearts. And so happens he passed away with the whole pandemic as well too. So it's not good. He didn't die of the whole COVID thing. He passed away because he had a heart congestion. And throughout his working career, he always worked hard. He had developed a heart condition. He was always had a bad heart, but it got worse when he retired. Because when you retire and you're a hardworking guy working 70 hours a week, constantly working, you only have 1 day a week. When you're retired and you don't do anything, your body starts to give up on you. He didn't have a good diet. He ate a lot of bad food, so it kind of caught up to him. He loved Filipino. He loved lechon. Lechon is pig, roast pig, and he loved that. And you know, you're a human being. You think your dad is indestructible, but when your dad is a strong character, strong mental, physically, emotional, and he provided. And when he'd provide you, he would give you strength in that way. So when his body started, he went to the hospital a couple times because he had a heart condition and developed a congestive heart failure back in 2008 or 9. That's when it happened, and then he had to go to the hospital because we thought he was going to pass away at the time. But finally, to God's grace, he gave us a couple more years with our dad, another 12 years or something like that. But then it was awesome because now we finally realized, okay, our dad is retired and we have to take care of our dad. But anyway, it goes back to why we're not going to put our mom to the rest home. It's because our dad, before he passed away, he said he knew that he started getting in vision. He started visualizing heaven, and he's seeing his friends through his dreams. So his friends would always say, "Come on back, come over here. You'll love it in heaven." And my dad was enjoying because he'd always see his friends, because all his friends started passing away. His close friends said, and his relatives and all that stuff said, "Come on here, enjoy life in heaven." And those were his visions. So he started seeing his life, because he didn't have much time left. I think that's probably why he was dreaming a lot, visioning a lot. And finally at the end of his life, it was one day before he knew that, because he kept going in and out of the hospital. We kept taking him in and out of the hospital. He started internal bleeding, and it was a mess. And we always had to make sure our dad was okay. So we took time. We took what do you call it? We took turns to take care of our dad. Shifts. Morning shift was my brother. One of my brothers, my other brother would take the afternoon shift, would take the night shift. So it was shifts. We would make sure our dad was okay. If our dad could provide for us, and dad, what do you call it, moved to a different country to provide for his family, the least we could do is do exactly the same thing, the best that we know how. So take care of him as well too. So before we got older, so before we when we went to the hospital, we took him, and because he started getting internal bleeding again, and we thought it was okay because he said okay, the doctor fixed him up, but then he's still having these recurrent dreams of his friends say, "Come on, enjoy life," and he started crying, and we don't understand why he was crying, because when you see a dad who's strong, you don't like to see him cry. I think we only seen him cry once when I was a kid, and I think because his dad passed away. And when you see a dad who's a superhero, strength like a rock, like a hammer, when you see emotion from your dad, you feel sad, because you know your dad. You never see your dad in that state as being strong mentally, physically, emotionally. And when you see him that state, you become humbled, because he is a human being. He's not a superhero. He's actually a human being. He only did. He provided for the best way he knew how. So when he did that, when he started crying, I was like, wow. So it goes back to the day before he passed away. He goes, he knew that he was didn't have much time left. So he told us, a couple of our family, a couple of brothers anyway. I was downstairs, and my other brother came to visit him, and he said, make sure your mom is okay. Make sure you take care of your mom. Okay, because he kind of knew that his life was kind of ending. And he goes, make sure you take care of your mom. Okay, guys. So we said, okay, Dad, we'll take care of mom. We'll never put her in in a home. We will always take care of him. And we're keeping our promise the best way we know how, because we love our parents, and that's the way you should be. You loving your parents, your mom, your dad. So this is Father Day. My dad, the next following day, he had a really bad headache, and three of us brothers were watching TV like we usually do, the news and whatnot. My dad came out of his room, and he said he had a split headache. When he had a split headache, he had a stroke one time, and he fell down on his head in front of us, in front of his three sons, and his eyes rolled back. We're like, what? Are you okay, Dad? So we shook him, and he came out of his stroke. He spilled all kinds of food, drinks on the table. Oh, Dad, are you okay? And he goes, okay. And then another 2 minutes later, he had another stroke. And he kept on having strokes in front of us. And I said, okay, something's not right. So I called the emergency, called the ambulance, called 911, asking my dad is not feeling too well. And they said, okay, calm down. I'll make sure. Yeah, well, his eyes are rolling back. He's fainting and blah, blah. Goes, oh, and the operator said, okay, he's having a stroke, so you need to calm down. I'm going to have an ambulance come right away, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. 5 minutes later, the ambulance came, and then he had another stroke. So my other brother, Gerald, gave him a maneuver, make sure he's okay. So he woke up again. So he had 5 strokes in front of us. So finally realized, okay, my dad's is not feeling well. So we took him to the hospital. They took him to the ambulance. The ambulance came. The dog was barking, and they were wearing masks. This was COVID at the time. Like I said, he didn't die of COVID. He had a heart complications, which is the heart. I can't name it top of my head right now. But anyway, yeah, it's hard to talk about this. So because you see your dad as a strong superhero of rock, and then when you see him in that state, you're like, okay, something's not right. So we took him to the hospital. We took him. The ambulance came, diagnosed his problem. And Dad was just not there. But he wasn't coherent. The ambulance knew that, okay, we have to take this guy to the hospital, so to the emergency. So they took him away. We seen our dad go on the stretcher, and the ambulance came. The paramedics came, and they put him in a stretcher and brought him to the ambulance car, and then drove off to the hospital. So we had to call the rest of our brothers, because we knew that Father didn't have time left. We knew that something was not right. So every one of our brothers talked and said, okay, our dad's not right. He's in the hospital. He had a couple of strokes. We have to see him. So we had to wait, because COVID, the whole thing you couldn't go in the hospital because you had to have your COVID shots. I don't believe in the shots. We all know about that. I don't believe in that whole mumbo jumbo. That's another story. So only couple of my other brothers I got it, so they were only allowed to go there, and they only had perimeter. You had to disinfect, you had to wear all kinds of stuff like that. So when we went to the emergency and we see my dad in a stretcher, we knew he was not well, and he was talking and just moving around, and he was in pain. And I told the doctors, he is in very much pain. Can you make him sleep on a sedative, because I don't like seeing my dad in that state. So the doctors did put him to sleep so that he's not in so much pain. And then the other doctor came there. The other doctor said his body is collapsing. Everything is falling. His kidney is failing, his brain is failing, his whole body is failing. So that's when we realized, okay, this is the day's end for my dad. It was hard to swallow it. It's hard to see your dad in that state, but we knew that, okay, the time was coming. So he had a premonition that he knew that he was going to go. And when he promised us to take care of our mom, that's when I realized when my dad passed away. Not too long ago, they had to put him in a coma. He was in a coma for about 2 weeks. And finally realized he was not coming out of it. And he was going to be in a vegetable state. So, don't worry about that. I'll take care of that. So, well, anyway, when he did that, when he did that, let me think what happened in this back then. When they put him in a coma, when he was in a coma, when he said he after 2 weeks, and he breathed on his own, because I think the way he goes that you don't resuscitate him, you have to let him go. If he doesn't breathe on his own, then you have to let him go. So he did it for about, I think it was like 30 minutes to an hour. Then he finally stopped breathing. So that's when we got a call from the hospital saying that dad passed away. So I think it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning that happened, and I started feeling pain. I couldn't breathe, and that time happened. So I knew that something was not right. My dad finally died. He finally passed away. So that was a big thing. So my whole brothers called us. We all had to wait, and finally realized, okay, now that's when we had to step up to the pump and take care of things, the funeral arrangement. And my brother did that. He did a great job. Him and his wife. Kudos to them. They did a great job, because we were just so emotionally drained, just emotionally drained with that. So, in that note, that's what happened. So we are keeping our promise what the dad did before he passed away. So we're keeping our promise to make sure our mom is going to be okay, and we're keeping our promise. But for our dad, and that's when I realized, okay, our dad is gone now, and we're keeping a promise. So what we're going to do, what we're doing since it's Father's Day, I have the least that I can do is talk about our father and all the dads out there who are providers for their for their family. But our dad is worth talking about, and it's why I put it on this podcast. It's a very important day for me and my brothers and our family, for all the fathers out there who had a great family and blah blah. So this is happy Father's Day for not just our family, but for all the fathers out there who've been there through thick and thin for their family. Okay, our father isn't no more special than your father. It's how you treat your father and how your father treats you, and how I have a good family unit. Okay, and to have a family who's there through thick and thin. I think my parents have been together 50 years, 60 years, something like that. All I know, they've been together for a long time. So marriage is difficult for everyone, because through thick and thin, you go through trials and tribulations through marriage, and and seeing that through my parents is very. You start to realize about relationship as well too, about seeing your parents, how they fight, how they make up, how they love each other, how they love the family. So it's cool. You install it in your siblings. So we see that. But anyway, back to our Father, and the reason why we love our Father so much, how he became a rock, how we so much strength in his ability to see in every one of his siblings how they move and how they operate, how you see things on you. How I think I see it how my Father sees us and say, okay, one of my sons has this talent, he can do that. My other brother his other son has this talent, so he knows all our talents. And my dad would strengthen us in all our talents. Just say, like, I have a lot of talents, and like my brothers have a lot of talents, but it was up to them to find their talent. So I think I have most of my talents, but for my dad, actually, my oldest brother Jonah has the same talent as my dad. The way his mannerism is, the way his work ethic is, I think that with me, it's all the way all around. I could do multitasks like my dad. Not as good as my other brothers, but I can do it. I would do it because I have to do it. I do it because I love doing it. I do it because he loved doing it. I do it because I had to do it. Yeah, but anyway, so with my dad, when it came to relationships, okay, now let's go back to relationships. Let's go to relationships actually. With my dad seeing all of us have our relationship with girls, trials, tribulations with girls, and we are living in Canada, so all we did was hang around with whites, Caucasians, rarely black. We really had a black friend, Chinese friend, Polish friend, a Russian friend, whatever race we really had. We just mostly hung around with whites because we were raised in a rough neighborhood, predominantly white, and it was very rough in that area. So you go to school, you hang around with whites, you date whites, so you date Canadians. So I dated a lot of Canadians, and same with my brothers. So it's just we were brought up, so we got to try. So I dated a lot. I had a lot of relationships. So I had 3 relationships, really intense relationships, toxic relationships, and not a good relationship. It was good at the time because I thought it was good, but finally realized that it was not good for me, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. The women that I was drawn to and women that I dated were just not for me. Maybe because I was just young, dumb, full of cum. I don't know. All I wanted to do was just experience relationships, and when I had relationships, I remember when I was young, I had one of the girls always said, "You're gonna be a heartbreaker." I didn't understand what that meant when I was like 6, 7, heartbreaker. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. I don't know. All I know when I was with a girl, or I was attracted to the girl, and the girl was attracted to me, I had no problem. But when it came to other relationships or other guys who were fighting for the same girl, I would always lose in that aspect because they were more. Their personality was more stronger than me, very aggressive. Me, I was very passive. I waited till they come to me. I didn't like pursuing them. I just used whatever I had, God-given talents, whatever, to attract to me. And it's just the way it was. I've learned that throughout the life. I didn't have to do a lot. I just waited till they came to me. That's just the way it was. I didn't know how to understand. I never understood that. I just did the way it worked. So with my first relationship, well, I thought it was a relationship. I was dragged around, and because I got into 16, 17, I started working out, singing, pumping iron with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and started to realize, hey, I want to look like that. I'm going to start looking like that. I started not joining sports because I was a good athlete when it came to basketball, hockey. I loved that. I loved playing that throughout the years when I was young, and I was good. And I thought I was going to be a freaking hockey player, basketball. You're young, you thought you were going to be everything, right? But I finally realized, I'm too short. Everybody was taller than me, but I had the skills. I just knew that I had the talents to do that. I didn't realize that when you got older, you had to be tall, strong, and you had to be an aggression. So finally realized, okay, that's not sports for me. And then I got into the whole bodybuilding thing when I seen Arnold Schwarzenegger pumping iron. Boom, that's when I got into the whole fitness industry. Started working out, started looking good. I started getting attracted to women, started attracting me. I was like, okay, you know what? I had no problem getting girls because I look good. I had no problem. So I took advantage of that. And when the girls came up to me and I came up, hey, let's hang out, blah, blah, I had no problem. One thing like your relationship company, you have sex, you start to realize about girls, and then you start using them as a object that to fill your sexual needs. So you did it. So your first relationship, okay, you fall in love with this girl, not realizing that she's not just fall in love with me. She would say things, so I would fall in love with them because I was very passive, I was very good, very nice, and then she didn't feel the same for me. She was with another guy and made me believe I was with him. It was all a mess, so it screwed me mentally, and I fell down. That's one relationship. Second relationship, I was with her for 3 years. That one was like, the first one was a couple months. The second one was 3 years. Lived with her, we traveled, we did everything together. It was awesome, great relationship. Had sex like bunnies, it was awesome. Not a white girl. I think she was Jewish. Yeah, the first one was Italian, the other one was Jewish. The second one was Jewish. Father didn't like me. Mother liked me because she was Catholic, but his father was Jewish. His brother and sister liked me, but the father didn't like me because he didn't want his daughter looking like dating a person who was a visible minority. It's not a Jewish. And I worked at the factory at the time. I worked hard for my money. So that didn't work out. And then the third time, the third half, we lived together and moved out. And things happened. I don't want to go too deep in that, so we split up. Because we split up, I didn't want to go too deep into that because, we didn't work out, and people. Let's just say faithfulness wasn't there on both sides, on her side. And they believed that I thought she was faithful, but not. So I finally realized, okay, women do cheat. Guys, be careful. Guys the same way, it goes two boats. Guys can do exactly the same thing too, but for my second one, wasn't faithful, and I found out that later on into life, and I finally realized, okay, you know what? She's not for me. And then the third one came, I guess, always at the gym. I thought we got together, and then we started working out, we started competing. I worked at the gym at times, so I trained her, and I trained everybody. I trained all my girls. Like I trained mentally. I wanted to look in a certain way, because for my standard, because I always want to look good. If I look good, you look good. You look good in front of me, we look good together. So that's the way my thought of thinking. So I trained her, make her look good, made her compete, blah, blah, blah. Played second. I started the whole bodybuilding fitness thing. That's another story. I don't want to talk about that. That's a part of my life I don't want to talk about anymore. So that life is done and over with. Throughout the years, I met a lot of people, got into the whole working out, taking synthetics, making look good. In order to compete, look good, you also got to take enhancements to look good, to be a good competitor. So for those of you who know me, I used to compete. Competitive bodybuilding in the lightweight welterweight division, which is 155, 50 and 155 at 0% body fat. I was sliced and diced, and I looked great for my weight category, and I dominated my weight category, and I was very good at what I do. I was a very entertaining character, a competitive bodybuilder. I wasn't as big and massive as the other heavyweights, but I was comparable to them. Because I always placed first in all my competition. I only placed second once, third once, and everything else was first, whether it was the couples or by myself. And then when I dominated my class, I finally realized, okay, I'm going to the Windsors, Westerns, Northerns, Easterns, Ontarios, Western Ontario, Southern Ontario's, then Canada's Canada Cup, Nationals. I tried to get my port cards. I thought, okay, I'm going to get my port card. Not realizing, my God, I was just a small fish in a big pond. I was big fish in a small pond, and now I'm a small fish in a bigger pond. And I finally realized these guys are bigger, stronger than me. And now that's when it came to reality. I ate some humble pie when I did the Nationals in Detroit, Michigan. I got my ass whipped. These guys were bigger than me. I was like, oh my God, that was horrible. I was going through a breakup at the time, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna try to come back, because I usually come back when it comes to a relationship. I always go back by working out, making myself feel good, look good, and then bam, I would always win. And one time when I came back from my second relationship, I bounced back, bigger, stronger than ever. I dominated the whole weight class for like a year. 155, 0% body fat, Nationals, Southwesterns, Ontario's, boom, first, all. You see my trophy case. Dominated. All. I had respect from the whole bodybuilding community, the whole judges, all the professionals. It's like, who the hell is this Filipino guy dominating the class? And that was me. So in that case, I fell in love with a girl, blah, blah, got her trained, blah, blah, made her look good, blah, blah, and then all of a sudden, we all got, things happened, we're supposed to get married. I don't want to go too deep in that. We're supposed to get married, we didn't get married, so we became unfaithful. She became unfaithful. I became unfaithful. So it was twofold. So we both became unfaithful. More an aspect because insecurity for reasons, because we weren't going to get married. I had visioned something else, and she was envisioning getting married. I was envisioning somewhere else to become a pro, which was a recipe for disaster. Was like false hope, because I knew that. Finally realized you got to have money to get upstanding, and I only had so much money to get the things that you need to look good, to win the place, and blah blah. And that's what happened. Unfaithfulness, and finally realized I went absolutely nuts. Had to cancel my wedding, so she went a different road. See another guy, did blah blah, and things happened, and I was crushed. Did a lot of partying to numb the pain. And my dad see me in my state and finally realized, what are you doing? My dad goes, did you fuck her? I said, of course I did. I'm a man. He goes, well, then quit your crying. Stop your crying. Stop being a little baby. Something like that nature. And he goes, do you honestly think your ex is thinking about you while she's fucking another guy? And I thought about it when the way he said that. He goes, you're right. She's fucking another dude, getting her rocks off. She's definitely not thinking about me. And my dad really, when he said that, that's what really dawned on me. It's like, wow, it only took that words of wisdom coming from my dad to tell me that, did you fuck her? Of course I did. I'm a man. Well, stop your crying. You don't think she's thinking about you while she's screwing another guy. Right then and there, boom, in an instant, I became a man. I no longer cry for women. What happens? I make the final call. I'm a man because my dad says, quit crying. Don't ever show your weakness. Blah, blah, blah. And that, for instance, ladies and gentlemen, is why you need dads, to give you the words and wisdom to pass it on to your siblings, whether it's a guy or girl. But guys, when you have a father and he has 5 sons, he's going to make sure that your 5 sons are becoming a man. And that's what happened. I went back on my ass. Right then and there, I became a man. Boom. Started working out, made myself look good again. I started getting back into shape. I had my 6-pack. I started looking great. Boom, boom. There, I became a man. So that was my story there, ladies and gentlemen. And to top it off, I respect my dad now more than ever, and we will honor his wishes before his dying day that we will take care of our mom. And that's what we're doing, keeping our promise to our dad. Happy Father's Day, everyone. Love you, Dad. Miss you. Hope to see you soon. Up in heaven. but not yet. Bye for now. God bless, Godspeed, and see you in the next podcast video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment down below on my YouTube channel, as well as my Spotify. Bye for now.